All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for joining me here on the channel, Fighting the Enemy. It's been a beautiful weekend. It's been a lovely weekend. Wish it was hotter and I was closer to the equator, but here we are in beautiful New York City. So, shout outs to New York City that Omicron hasn't destroyed us. And hope everyone that's joining me and watching this, that this finds you well and healthy, and your loved ones as well, because times are certainly hard, but we got to be harder, right? So just hopefully hopefully I try to play like some preview music. Not sure that really worked. I was trying to I played some Christian rap music. Hopefully that helped the theme and everything. I'm over here looking at my phone because kind of helped me moderate myself. I'm not sure if we're up to date here. Give me 1 second. Yep, no, we are good to go. All right, yep. Just helping myself moderate here. So, all right, yep. So I played some Christian rap music because as some of you, especially those of you joining with me from Facebook or my Instagram, and shout outs to me for finally figuring out how Instagram works. Today's topic, theme, and title of the video is she celibate? Is she celibate? And I put that in air quotes, celibate, because just like the word theory in itself, it's misused all the time. And I'm not a theologian or an expert in Christianity or the Bible, but last time I checked, the word celibate connotes virginity. And so, especially in my experience, in my anecdotal experience, where you bump into so many 30-plus-year-old women saying that they're celibate, but they're not a virgin, it's like, you guys got to read from a new book. So, because whatever you're reading from is not working for you. And it's a little bit embarrassing, to be honest. But just to get a quick recap of the first video, episode 0, where I mentioned what happened to dating. I got some feedback, and I just wanted to follow up on that because I listened to people's comments. Some people reached out to me on Facebook Messenger, and some people in my personal circle, they hit me up with a text and things like that. And so the first point I want to go over, if I keep looking down, that's because I have some notes here, so my apologies. First thing I want to cover is the big theme of the last video, where I had an acronym called HIDDEN, and I'm deciding to add the D, the second D. So HIDDEN, and the first H stands for hedonism, the letter I for immaturity, D for delusional, the second D for double standards. The fifth letter E stands for elitism/entitlement, and then the letter N for narcissism. This is a combination, if not an amalgamation, of characteristics and qualities that I have observed over my last 10 years, more in particular my last 3 years of dating, and just in general from just men in my inner circles, from both colleagues, peers, and family members. The men have this being observant and attentive to what their experiences are. I came up with this little clever acronym. I think it's clever, that about what's going on here. So I'm gonna stop trying to look at my phone. Anyways, so that's like basically the foundational hallmark point there that I got from that I delivered. The message I wanted to deliver in the first video is it seems like these traits and characteristics have significantly increased over the span of 10 years for me, going from 20 to 30. Second point I want to bring up here, so I'm going to go pull up the screen share, is some people had asked me what does the word enemy mean, and go over, we're going to scoot on over to Google University, and we're going to go ahead and look at a definition here on Google University. So the screen share should be up. So a little bit of latency and lag here, so it's kind of odd. So that screen share should be up, and I'm going to go ahead and read it. You guys should be able to see what's going on my screen. And oh boy, it says here, we're going to read that definition on the right. It says, in sociology, yes, it is a sociological term. Sociology, anomie is a social condition defined by an uprooting or breakdown of any moral values, standards, or guidance for individuals to follow. Anomie may evolve from conflict or belief systems and causes breakdown of social bonds between an individual and a community, both economic and primary socialization. In other words, alienation in a person that can progress into dysfunctional inability to integrate within normative situations of their social world, like to find a job, find success in relationships, etc. So I want to highlight that point right there. Find success in relationships. And that's not only romantic relationships, that's friends, family, anything where you're having long-term, sincere dialogues with someone in hopes to connect and have something more meaningful. And so now that we covered that, it's, for me, I always describe it as lack of direction. Hold up, I'm gonna put that camera back on. I always describe it as lack of direction. I think that's just a really big, fancy, nuanced, intuitive, I guess, intuitive way to just describe it, right? Like, that's a super, obviously, scholarly description of it. But for me, I like to summarize it and, not to undermine all those important features of the definition, but it's just no direction, and you have the lack of direction is caused from the lack of guidance or any kind of norms that would help, I don't want to say prescribe to you what to do, but it makes you feel more comfortable, and you don't, like the definition said, you don't alienate yourself as much or second guess yourself as much as when you're trying to make these directions and build these bonds and function in society. And so those 5 traits hidden, HIDDEN, I feel like I observed and understand that those are some traits that it's just in this melting pot of or lack of culture for nowadays, and particularly here in New York City, the only city with 8 million people, or if put in the other ways, the only city in America that has over 4 million people. And the last point that I wanted to make here, I'm going to keep in mind shout outs to one of the people who gave me some advice where they wanted to hear some more. I said shout outs to that person, so I had to blow the air horn. But shout outs to them because they wanted me to be a little bit more mindful for the women and prescribe, well, not prescribe, but I guess suggest or provide some kind of guidance for the ladies. So even though this is a podcast channel that's for men, made for men, to give guidance for men, I'll try to keep that in mind moving forward. And so let's get back into it. Is she celibate? Is she celibate? And the answer to that question is finesse, right? Finesse. And for the next 4 or 5 videos, and it's always going to be like the hallmark driver to a lot of my points and experiences that I'm going to bring up here onto the channel in future content, is how do you detect when a woman is trying to finesse you, right? You're a guy like me, you're pretty okay place, you do okay for yourself, you're out here in the dating scene. It's obviously not a beautiful picture, it's obviously not a wonderful experience, and time and time again you bump into however often you come into a dialogue with women, whether it's in person or dating apps, you keep bumping into women asking you for money, You take them out on 1 or 2 dates, then you literally never hear from them again. They vanish. And anything that basically leads to you spending time, money, emotional effort, brain cells, and that person literally just disappears, like just gone, or they make like Steve from Blue's Clues and give you the whole and then you never see them again. And so that's generally, I guess for now we're going to say that's finesse, but as a matter of fact, I'm going to go ahead and bring up that screen share again, because I think it's very important to really understand what the word means and then where it comes from. So I'll go ahead and we'll bring up the screen share again. That screen share should be on. Let me just give a quick check here. Yep. And so finesse, we're going to read these definitions right here on the left. Intricate and refined delicacy. An attempt to win with a trick with a card that is not a certain winner. Right? So we want to really keep this second definition in mind. Right? An attempt to win with a trick with a card that is not a certain winner. And then we got it in the verb. Do something in a subtle and delicate manner. And then again, it's going to go back to talking about cards where, because luck is an element. In a bridge and Wells play, a card that is not a certain winner in the hope of winning a trick with it. So really important that we keep that in mind, because the keywords there is trick, and that the whole element, right, that whole definition connoted luck, right? She's trying to get lucky with you, right? She's being subtle and nuanced with her approach to you, with how she reciprocates your messages, your phone calls, video chat, whatever you have it. If you're in person, maybe she's giving you some kind of a little body language back, maybe a little smile or anything like that. So it's because it's all about deception, right? Like what they're trying to win from you is validation, emotional support, free ride, free meal, whatever the case may be, right? I'm sure you all had those experiences. I certainly have. And she's not going to reciprocate. She's not looking to reciprocate. That is the win. That is the trick. And like in the last video, like I mentioned, and I'm going to give you the rated PG version of it, is the same trick, different bird, right? It's always going to be the same trick. There's only a set amount of things, because they all read from the same book. There's only a set amount of things that they can do to win those, whatever it is that they're looking to gain from you, right? And so when I bring up the question again, is she celibate? The answer is more likely than not, no. And for me personally, I would always say no. And there are women out there, and I'm about to pull it up again in the screen share, that will lie about being Christian, will lie about their religious beliefs, to namely take sex and intimacy or anything that's passion in terms of romance, to take that off the table. And so let me make this extremely clear. I'm not criticizing religion. I am not criticizing Christianity. I am not criticizing anyone who practices their beliefs. That is not the objective point or any way, shape, or form what I'm trying to say here. I'm talking about a rational human being who is deciding to put on this, act of deceit, to use people's understandings of said religion to put themselves in a place that's advantageous to get what they seek without giving anything in return. And so in this specific scenario that I'm about to bring up out of my personal life that happened in New Year's Eve, this woman, deceitful woman, was using Christianity and the practice of abstaining, not being celibate, abstaining. She was using that to remove any kind of possibility of romantic, intimate advances to get her off the table. And so I'm gonna go ahead and bring up the screenshot. Or someone told me that they call them receipts. But first, I meant to share a blatant example of someone trying to finesse, because this is hilarious. So the screen share should be working, and so if you look here, I was writing something like along the lines of, hey, hope you had a lovely day, or whatever the case may be. I forgot how long ago this was. I think this was like around September. And then this person right away went right in for the kill. They said, can you send me $30 in Cash App? And then I wrote, I can send you a job application so you can work, ... What made you think I'm a sucker? So obviously, there's nothing I can follow up with there, because they unfollowed me, deleted me, whatever the case may be, blocked me. But this is a blatant example, super blatant example of when a woman is trying to finesse, and right, like she didn't do anything to kind of like coy me in or make me feel like, oh yeah, this person really wants something. They just went straight for the kill here. They didn't try to sugarcoat it or anything. So this is a blatant example right there. So now we're gonna get into the personal experience, and so that's fast forwarding. So again, this was around New Year's Eve, New Year's, and to give some context before I read through this receipt, to give some context of what was going on. I haven't been speaking to this lady in particular, not lady, woman. I haven't spoken to this woman in particular for more than 10 days, or at least not more than 2 weeks, 14 days. So between not more than 14, but probably not more than 10, if that made any sense. And so it didn't come up in the first dialogue that we had. Everything, met her off of a dating app. Everything started with just text, and they seemed pretty sincere at first, and then we moved on to the phone call after we started texting, and then a phone call. And then from the first phone call, it was pretty cool, pretty chill. Not really any yellow flags, but I sensed also a lot of hesitancy in her voice. So when someone's hesitant to open up, fellas, definitely take notes about this. When someone's hesitant to open up, it's just a yellow flag, right? You don't disqualify them for that, but it's a yellow flag, because you get onto a dating app and the intention is dating. Dating connotes, at least to me it does, romantic inclinations, right? And so there's an intent to be romantic. And so if you're still not over a prior experience, or is there still some kind of negativity that you're harboring within yourself that's going to prevent yourself from communicating and connecting with someone, then there's a yellow flag, right? You got to slow things down and really examine that person and ask more questions. And so that's exactly what I did. And so when it came to the second phone call / video chat, I think it was whatever it was, in a very super indirect way, and she was being kind of fearful about bringing up her passion for God, her passion for her Jehovah, her passion for Christianity, and how she found Jesus Christ. And so what I wrote down here, because that triggered my suspicion, because I already experienced this before, again, where they use religion and God and the whole abstaining thing to put themselves in a super advantageous position to gain from you but not give anything back from you. And in this particular example, it's sex, right? Night of romance, night of passion, holding hands, kissing, romantic inclinations, as I say. And so And please take notes, fellas, because you always want to ask this stuff when women come at you with the whole Jesus Christ thing. How long have you been practicing, right? How long has this abstinence been going on? In this example, she didn't say for more than 90 days, so clearly something new, right? Like, okay, right, that's very inconsistent, but all right. So you join a dating app when when you just found God and you're being more religious. You join a dating app rather than mingling and being more involved in your church, right? That's the first contradiction that in my mind I'm saying to myself, okay, that didn't make sense. Why did she say that? Second question, which church do you go to? If they cannot answer that, again, yellow flag. You got to be wary of that. In this particular case, she mentioned, because she's from Jersey, and she was just talking about how she goes back to these 2 or 3 different churches and she's not sure or whatever, right? Another yellow flag, right? I guess if you want to ask denomination, yeah, sure. Not that it really matters because that's not what you're looking for. You're just looking for how consistent they are about their potentially conjured up story, to see how serious they are about their claim. I think I mentioned how long that they've been practicing for. And when they hit you with the whole celibate thing, I always ask if they're a virgin. Like, I know I'm going to probably get crucified at the stake for saying this, and probably some person who thinks that women shouldn't be questioned by men is probably going to throw a Molotov cocktail through my window. But I ask that question because it's like, wait a minute, if you're over here being community kitty for X amount of years, and all of a sudden when you bump into me, now you're turning to God, like, okay, something's not adding up right, 1 + 1 + 1 = 3, and I like being someone who's logically sound, and so these things were not adding up. And no, she was not a virgin. And when I asked her when was the last time she had sex, I think she was more honest than most women, because she said something along she said like 4 or 5 weeks ago, so fairly recent, even though I would imagine it's more recent than that. But and then of course I asked stuff like, what's the last date you've been on? What's your take on how the Bible describes the role of women, and the role of women in a relationship, meaning not so much relationship but marriage. And I deliberately asked that question because, as I mentioned earlier before, people who generally are hesitant or have a hard time opening up with someone, assuming that they do have interest in that person, they might be harboring something that shouldn't be there. And in this case, because I bumped into this like thousands of times, is some women saying that very clearly. Some women, I didn't say all, some women harbor hate for men. They do. And so when you hit them with questions, they get frustrated and angry, and they'll say really mean things. I've been called many pejoratives before, many pejoratives, and lots of ad hominems, meaning offensive, disrespectful comments made to me, because I'm just trying to make sure the coast is clear with them. And so when I asked those questions, and particularly the dating stuff and how did it end, why did it end, to see if they are harboring hate, if they are going to just vent on you because they can't get over their previous, entanglement or relationship or whatever the case may have been. And I think something, so now I'm going to read through this now. And so after I added up all those things, and New Year's passed, like, I just got like this clairvoyance that told me that this isn't worth pursuing. It isn't. And just from the video chats and her voice alone, even though I don't have the luxury of reading body language, but just from her voice alone, so much hesitancy and just things that just weren't adding up, contradictions, I was just like, this scenario, and I'm being very particular with my diction, this scenario, I didn't say the person, I said this scenario is not for me. And we're going to see how it rolls out right here. So I'm the words in yellow. And I wrote, I don't think it's necessary. She wrote, KK, call me when you get a chance. And then I wrote, I don't think it's necessary. By the way, this is world clock, so this is 9:29, 9:30. And then I wrote, there will not be a Sunday because we planned a date on Sunday, and I'm going to get into those details in a moment. There will not be a Sunday. I will write more in the morning. I know what I need to know about you already. And then she responds, okay, you're not interested in me anymore? If so, that's fine. No need to waste my time. So I'm going to pause right there. Something I noticed in our previous discussions with her, me and my video chats with her, she always put emphasis on wasting time, but she said it with some animus. And I don't know if I pulled up the definition to that word. I'm sorry that I'm being super scholarly here. Did I put animus? No, I wrote blatant. And blatant, done in an openly and unshamedly manner. I forgot to tie that in with the lady who, woman, that asked me for those $30 in that one dating app, right? Because they went straight for the kill. There was no shame. And so when I say animus, that's like a fancy word for like anger. Like you're like trying to take. Well, I'm not going to say all of that. I got to look up the definition again. But, you know what? Let's do it right here. Why not? Trying to be on time here for 8:10 for the call lines. Define animus. All right. Hostility or ill feeling. That's exactly the vibes that I got from her whenever she mentioned wasting time, where there was animus there, where it's like, your time doesn't equal mine, right? Like you're less than me, right? So like don't waste my time because someone that's less than me shouldn't be taking my time. And I remember like I kind of challenged her thinking like, okay, I'm losing what you're losing, time, you know? So like why do you keep bringing this up with like some kind of, like there's something pent up in you? So I'm going to continue now. So good morning and Happy New Year's. I write this with no malice, just not seeing where I'm happy with you. I respect your beliefs and practices, but overall, it's just not for me. So that's a typo. I meant to put in effort and coordinate, right? So we're following up on that fourth line, to put in effort and coordinate, and none of it can end with a night of romance and passion, sex, just only harms me and my feelings. Good luck in finding what you're looking for. Then she responds, good morning, GM. Good morning. I respect the decision. And so I want to, before I keep reading, notice how in my message, I didn't write anything about her, literally. Nothing, I didn't have a criticism of her. I just said, hey, I respect your beliefs, but this scenario, this whole thing right here, all this that I'm doing, I don't see how I'm happy with it. I didn't write anything about her. I didn't say, hey, no, you're too loud, or hey, you're too hesitant, or oh, hey, I didn't have a criticism about her behavior, her character. So keep that in mind. Keep that crystal clear in your mind, and look at the response. Good morning. I respect your decision. I too saw red flags in you that was probably not going to go well for me, not just the no sex. I think you need some healing from your trauma in the Marines and past dating. I wish you well. No harm in letting you know this. Also, I do appreciate you not wasting my time. Hence the reason I told you about my beliefs up front, which is not true. Happy New Year's. So I'm going to break this down a little bit before we move on to the big reveal at the end, which made some people lose their minds on my Facebook page. But the first thing I want to go up to is the ad hominem. I think you need some healing from your trauma in the Marines and from past dating. So, and this person in particular knows this. I seen a therapist, mandatory. I was forced to see a therapist for anger management for 4 years. And that was one of the best things that had ever happened to me, to be honest, because I had learned so many skills, not only to deal with my own emotional, with my own emotional, hardships, and especially when I feel that flux of anger, and and I get really teed off and whatnot. But the greater good, the grandeur of that whole experience, especially for as long as I did it for, was all the tools that it gave me to connect with someone and help me be a better listener. And so I thought it was really, you guys aren't going to know this because you didn't have any verbal interactions with this person, but the way I perceived this message and those statements, with the little that I know of her in terms of the way she talks, her sense of humor and demeanor, was that this was kind of like a cheap shot of my character. I think you need some healing from your trauma in the Marines and past dating. And I never talk about my past experiences in like a negative, traumatic way. Like I'm over that stuff. It's in the past. I just keep it fresh in my mind so I can remember the lessons and the wisdom that it provided to me. So I don't go repeating the same mistakes, and to more importantly avoid any unideal scenarios, which is, like I said, more importantly, to avoid those unideal scenarios and not be in them, where you got to really use the wisdom and techniques to get yourself out of a jam. And then the next cheap shot or ad hominem was when they wrote, "No harm in letting you know this." So what? What I'm saying? That's like kind of putting a screwdriver between someone's ribs. Like, what's the point of actually writing that? Like, you already wrote that. Why reaffirm? Like, what? Like, it seems a little pernicious to me. And then it says, also, I do appreciate blah blah. So again, we know whenever we hear wasting time, there's some animus behind it. And then this is the big lie right here. She did not write me that or tell me that up front about the beliefs. My weak argument for myself, summarizing that experience, was that at some point, again, this is just kind of like my hypothesis, if you will, if that made any sense, or wild educated guess, was that between the first couple of conversations and then it was around the third or fourth long dialogue, extended dialogue, where the religious beliefs came up. Between that time, the decision was made, like, okay, is this friend zone, or am I going to really pursue this guy? And then she put me in friend zone. And so now her beliefs take the role, it becomes a tool now to finesse, to gain, right? That has become the trick, right? Religion for her, the tool, has become the trick to gain this, free meal from the spot that I had to pick into Jersey. And we're going to get to that in a moment. And so this is the big reel. Get ready for this, ladies and gentlemen. So after she wrote that message around 10:54, that's what it says. And then I got this around 13:35, which is 1:35. So about 3 hours, less than 3 hours, she writes this message. Babe, ... I'm on my way. See you soon. Kiss wink emoji, kiss wink emoji. Ladies and gentlemen, let me make this crystal clear. That was not intended for me. That was not intended for me. That message she wrote there, not intended for me. And so what I thought, I didn't respond to that. Like, I didn't respond to anything. It's my personal practice and belief to let them have the last word, let them have the last say, because I said my piece, I'm done, I drop it, I move on. That's it. Moving on. Not going back in time. And so when I saw that, I thought it was hilarious. And of course I had to post it on Facebook, because it was like, look at this, like, thank you for confirming the suspicion and the yellow flags. Because I don't know, really think about it. How many people call someone they're dating babe and they're not a boyfriend, girlfriend, or something more significant than that? I'm going to let that sink in for a while. And so hopefully brain synapses are like firing off, and we're hearing this. So from here, it was just either one or two things happened with this person in the background that I'll never be able to confirm, obviously. And is that A, they have a boyfriend or something more meaningful than a boyfriend, and they're cheating because they sent me this message by mistake and they meant to send that to the boyfriend, the person that they intended to be the recipient of that message. And obviously she's going somewhere, so when she found out that the plans didn't work out with me, she instantly rescheduled or put back on the schedule these other plans that was there. Or B, in my mind, she's just a street rat. You know, the finesse didn't work. I didn't fall for the bait. And, you know, she just had other dudes lined up. And once the plans fell through with me, it was just like, hey, you know, this guy didn't work. It's time for you. I'm going to go ahead and send this flirtatious message to further entice this plans falling through, right? So either or, it really discredits and she really hurts women who really do believe and practice their beliefs, in this case Christianity, because she's out here being deceitful, and it's wrong. It's wrong. Like, this kind of behavior is completely unacceptable and wrong. And a bigger thing before we go ahead into the call lines, the bigger thing I want to point out, especially to my fellas, and I'm sure there's a lot of men who could relate to this, is that you look at this scenario. This is not the first time I encountered this. And so this person lives in Jersey. I'm here in Manhattan in New York City. They did not want to come to New York for the plan on Sunday. I had to go to Jersey. I know almost nothing about Jersey, to be honest. Like, I don't. And to be honest, I don't care. And so I had to go look up neighborhoods in Jersey. I had to go look up venues in Jersey, read reviews of these venues, see how they are, made a couple of phone calls, pick the spot, pick the time. The assumption is that I'm going to pick up the bill and pay for everything. And I have to travel further than them because they have a car and they're probably no more than 10, 20 minutes away. So I'm giving this person all this convenience, all this investment, my time. And if you want to get really analytical, they don't make more than me. So in a employee sense, this is just a loss for me. Because I don't, like, you compare our pay rates, like, I'm making more than her, and so, like, I'm losing more than you if you want to put it that way. But I don't look at things that way, right? Because time is the only currency. Nobody gives that back to you, and you really can't put a dollar amount on it. And God will not refund your time for my non-believers. And, you know, ain't going to be no time machine to do anything. So, but again, I'm going to put that all into perspective again, right? I did the research. I picked the place. I picked the time. I picked the date. I'm paying the bill. All that convenience is for that person. And really think about what I wrote in that previous message before you condemn me to hell, was that this doesn't end in any way that's favorable for me. What do I really get out of this? Nothing. Nothing. The answer is nothing. And I'm sure my fellows can relate because I know I'm not the only one who's experienced that. And so when you look at it in that sense, in a logical, deductive manner, or in a mathematical sense, you know, right? 1 plus 1 is 1 plus negative 1 is 0. That's what I got from here. There was just too many negatives. There was negative 4. And so that's how I came to my conclusion. Had nothing about me attacking their character, criticizing them for them, which is what they did to me, which again, yellow flag. And so definitely like, comment, subscribe. I'm going to go ahead and start getting those that Zoom set up and ready, and let me know what you guys think. Leave comments, leave questions. What's your opinion about this scenario? What are you guys thinking, right? And if you have a similar experience to share, by all means, share it. We'd like to hear your take if you ever experienced any similar scenarios like that. And so I'm gonna go ahead and see if this music plays while I transition to get the call line, the Zoom set up. And if there's just nobody on the Zoom call, well, just call it a day early, and I'll conclude. I'll give my final remarks, and we'll just move on.
Behold, Jehovah's prophets in the wilderness. Unfold the scroll, the contents of my syllabus. Everybody want the fast life, but fast life equal fast death. Where do you go after your last breath? That's the question that we stressing. Expressions of reverence for your blessings. So check the lesson in the message. The message in the lesson will break the chains of addiction. The strains of affliction, shackles of oppression. Our country go to war for money while the poor and hungry live in tabernacles of depression. Now we're here to expose the prince of the power of the air, because the final hour it is near, and Satan might creep. So awake my peeps from your late night sleep, going astray like sheep. Don't wait too late and say I wish I knew then what I know now. All I'm saying is slow down, slow down, slow down. Stuff like this, cause they shady souls, they choose the unrighteous, they want your mind. Vain guys long for power, labels pay them to play the same 5 songs an hour. A lot ain't even hot, in fact, I heard the same song so many times I almost forgot it was whack. When the same message is pumped repeatedly, maybe not immediately, but sooner or later the seed will be a tree. You crazy if you think it don't affect the minds of the kids. When their favorite rapper be flossing the diamonds and cribs, and they're rhyming his fibs about grabbing text to plaster. But he's a slave, a record exec, his master. 1 out of every 4 black males have been arrested. 1 out of every 3 females have been molested. You don't see the connection, you living on the surface. Why would you choose to be ignorant on purpose? The light in this world is really dim. When 9-year-old girls wanna grow up to be like Little Kim. 14 eyes on the guy with the Range Rover. He ain't sober, she still believed the things he told her. Now he got a new lady, so for him it may be over, but for her it's just beginning. She's pushing the baby stroller, saying, I wish I knew then what I know now. Somebody should have told her, slow down, slow down, slow down. Record new joints, best believe son, you gon' get the Lord's viewpoint. Most won't feel it due to hardness of the heart. For light has come into the world, but men love the dark. You don't have to show a child how to be disobedient. They already know how, they're wired to be deviant. What do you say about someone who dwells with fools? And when did it become a bad thing to do well in school? I guess because you failed, you cool. That's absurdity, that's why you're allergic to what I fervently kick verbally. You know your mind state is secular. When your eyes are dry while the sky high, crime rate is regular. Extortion, robbery, abortion, lies, greed. Poors that got fees, the Lord is not pleased. Think about it logically. If God doesn't judge America, he owes Sodom and Gomorrah an apology. That's why Christ came to take the wrath and the pain, laughs and the shame. On our behalf he was slain. Trust he's resurrected cause the sacrifice went well. And forever you'll be glad where the righteous dwell. Imagine spending half of your life in a cell and die just to spend your afterlife in hell. Saying, I wish I knew then what I know now. The whole time God was saying, slow down, slow down, slow down. As the world goes around, people drown in the evil that abounds. It's deep and profound. Media trying to drown out the sound.
All right, so took a little break there, and I was like drinking some water. My mouth is kind of dry there. So I did open up the call lines. If anyone joins, they join. I'm very new to this, and I'm really excited about my first video. If you haven't checked it out, I'll definitely leave a link in the description of this video. The first video, what happened to dating. So shout outs to me that it went over 100 views, and it's only been around for like 7-10 days. So really glad and happy about that. And you guys should be able to see the call line, just in case you want to go in there, ask me a question, show face, criticize me, share experience, whatever the case may be. The Zoom meeting information is down there in the description. And if not, well, I'll wait here like 2 or 3 minutes, and we'll definitely call it a night. And while I'll wrap up, I'll just close the line and wrap up and call it a night. But for those of you joining me live, I really appreciate it. Thanks for sharing this beautiful Sunday evening with me. It's supposed to be a snowstorm, so keep that in mind for those of you coming back from work tonight. It's, might be a little bit dangerous out there, and hopefully it's just not that bad, and hopefully it just doesn't snow, period. But I'm over here looking over some of my notes there. I think I did a pretty good job covering all the high notes, all the high points, and I guess I'll say this while I wait here, just to see if the call line is worth it or not. Advice that I would give women, and I guess it's hard to tell, because I didn't start this channel to give advice to women or tell them how to move or do. All I know and what I will say is that the women who do wrong under the name of God or under the guise of their religion, whichever one they pick, they're really making it harder for those who really are abstaining. And even though I would imagine it's like a very small minor, like maybe 1 out of 90, 1 out of 80, 1 out of 70 women really abstain or do anything like that, where they're refraining from any kind of intercourse of any sorts. The fact still remains is that because you have those who choose to do wrong under that name, title, banner, is making it very hard for that small demographic that really is out there trying to do things honestly and stay true to their beliefs. And it really isn't right, and it really isn't fair, but I didn't make it this way. I didn't wish it for it to be this way. I don't like the fact that it is this way, but again, right, just like we saw in that definition of the word finesse, right, is a trick, right? So some women, they're just blatant with it. They use no trick. They'll go ahead and just ask you to send them $30 or cash at me or whatever it is. Some will implement a religious background to do exactly what the blatant person did, and then there's different strategies. As I look at formal text receipts and just screenshots of prior experiences that I thought were just outrageous and stuff, there's different tricks, right? There's different tricks. You got the bait and switch, you got the happy birthday, right? Like, oh hey, it's my birthday, and and so these are kind of like indirect previews of what you guys are going to see more in the channel. And so I think this formula, of course, will keep evolving as things move on, but I think for now it's been pretty, I think it's pretty good, this formula, right? Have a theme, right? Like the episodes are going to have a question, I answer the question, I share a real personal experience that I went through, break it down, try to really dig into some nuances there, provide guidance where I can, and And then, and then have that open forum discussion like is there on my YouTube channel description, and see what are some people's thoughts and experiences on the matter. And so I think that's enough time here. All good. It's just a second video, small channel, and I'm starting out. So please consider support in any way. Like, comment, and subscribe, of course. I'm going to go throw that up there on the screen again. I'm going to go ahead and close down this meeting. And I'm going to go ahead and get into the concluding remarks while I show off my backup camera here. Bam! Got the little light right there too. I get the front camera. And that is a picture of Deadpool right there, by the way. That was a birthday gift. So if anybody was wondering. Concluding remarks. So this is somewhat of a preview. What we're going to be discussing in the next video. Is She Celibate Part 2. I'm thinking, I'm not necessarily sure 100% if it's even worth having a part 2, because it's really the same difference. It's honestly 100% the same exact difference on this whole scenario. I just picked this one because it's much more recent and it's fresh in my head. But what I do want to point out, and what will come up on the next video, on the next stream, regardless of what I decide, if there should be a part 2 or not, is that there's always two components when someone follows up, right? And I know this because I feel this way when I want to follow up, and I feel like there really is chemistry and rapport being built with someone. And those two elements are good faith and sincerity. And so sincerity is a feeling, an adjective is description, right? These are things that the picture is painted for you, right? And this is the easier thing for people to fake, and particularly women, is easier for them to fake, especially when they're trying to finesse a man. Well, under the assumption that they're over here trying to finesse you, because that's the logic we've been operating on, So for the finessers, very easy for them. Well, some of them have mastered the art of being artificially sincere, which is why that they'll be able to get that first date and nothing more, right? And so that's where you want to develop your senses and your sensibilities and your detective skills to make sure that if you do fall for the sincerity and there's nothing there, that's all you lose. It's just that first meetup, that coffee, that walk in the park, whatever the case may be, however that first interaction, happened, that, you exercise the best amount of damage control and that you make sure that you just pause it there and don't continue, because they're not looking for the same thing you're looking for, and you don't want to be X amount of time and money down the drain when you realize like, yo, this person's playing me, right? And so the sincerity, you got to be very careful for it and not be so susceptible to it, right? Like, feel it, embrace it, but don't let it get to your head, right? Don't ride that horse too high. But good faith, see, good faith is a verb, right? It's a verb. It's something that you do, right? When you do something in good faith, right? When someone demonstrates good faith, right? Like I'm trying to think of a way to put it in a sentence where it's not a verb, right? It's something you do. And in this example that I provided tonight, there was plenty of opportunity for her to show good faith, to demonstrate good faith, right? Like, they drive, I don't. Why not meet me somewhere in the city, right? Or why not say, hey, I know you're coming a longer way than me, and it's a little bit more inconvenient for you to come see me Sunday. We'll split the bill, right? Be a little bit proactive. Show that. How do you say? what's the word I'm looking for? That courtesy, right? Like show that you're putting that yourself in the other person's shoes. But again, that's an act of good faith. And so there's other things I can bring up and say from that scenario that would have demonstrated good faith, but it just wasn't there. And again, that's the hardest thing. That's something that they're not generally. A woman that's trying to finesse you is something they're generally not going to do, is show good faith, because it requires them to give, and that's not what they're trying to do. They're trying to do the opposite of that. And so we're definitely going to we're definitely going to dive into that good faith and sincerity. And so what I might do is plug in the other experience that I had in mind, where someone tried to use their quote unquote religious background to set up the same exact scenario that I described here, but I might tie in another text receipt too to further demonstrate what good faith looks like versus what it's not, where it's absent and where it's present. So I think that might be the better thing to do for the next video, right? I obviously got to brainstorm on the title, but definitely be working in the lab for that. So once again, thank you guys for joining me. It's been freaking wonderful. I think this is a wonderful experience. Hopefully you enjoyed the content and some of the description there and the experience that I shared. Appreciate your time. Please leave a like, comment. If you didn't like it, give it a thumbs down. Please consider subscribing and check out those links if you want to support the channel. I would really appreciate it. Some of this stuff costs money, and that's exactly where we'll go to. And with that, have a good night. Have a beautiful and great week. For those of you who are following me on Facebook or Instagram, stay tuned right there, because that's where the next post is going to be at. I got to figure out how to do that on YouTube. And thank you everyone, and have a good night. And here we go, play outro song.
Sorry, I